Hi everybody, I hope this video finds you all well. My name is Lorenz. I'm working at the Disaster Research Unit at Freie Universitat Berlin in Germany. And I've been to the last FQTS meeting in Salerno in February, where I gave a presentation on inequalities, social vulnerability and resilience. Today, I would like to give a short video presentation on the topic how to build resilient communities. The video will take approximately 15 minutes and I hope you will enjoy it. So this is my outline for today. I will briefly reintroduce the topic of resilience before I talk about how to build resilient communities. Okay, to begin with, what does resilience mean? Perhaps you remember me saying that resilience is used in very different fields, but that for the FQTS context, we talk mainly about the resilience of communities. To be a resilient community means that you're able to withstand or recover from difficult conditions. Difficult conditions can mean nearly everything a community faces. It can mean that a community faces a disaster, a flood for example, but also that a community has to deal with social changes like economic decay, for example, or like demographic changes. If the community deals successfully with these conditions, then we consider it to be resilient. Perhaps you remember me using this picture to depict what resilience can also mean in Salerno. Here you can see a forest after a forest fire. And as you can see, not everything has burned down, but rather there are new plants and flowers coming up after the fire. If we compare this to a community, then we can see that changes from time to time, even drastic changes, can lead to some kind of renewal of the community. And sometimes this renewal is badly needed. For example, in the case of forests, the forest from time to time needs a forest fire so that it can just redevelop itself. If a forest does not burn from time to time, then the next fire will even get bigger and destroy more and more. So to develop resilience, it needs to be tested from time to time. And you can only be resilient if you face difficult conditions, from time to time. Okay, here's another important aspect I would like to mention. It's the difference of resilience and stability. As you can see here in the two pictures, resilience and stability, they are different. On the left side, we see a small black dot representing a community, and it's at the bottom of a wide curve. This represents high resilience and low stability. On the right side, we see low resilience and high stability, also of a community represented by a black ball. But here, as you can see, the curve is much more steep and not so wide. It's rather narrow. So now please imagine what happens if both communities get shaken by outer shocks. If we just start with small shocks, the community on the right side, the high stability one, it will just stay the same. Not much will happen, it will just stay the way it was. But if these shocks get stronger and stronger, there will be a point where the community falls out of the loop, it leaves the curve. And there's not much to do for the community because it has a rather narrow way of adapting. It can just stay in the basin or fall out. The resilient community on the left side has rather different ways of coping. Even if there are small shocks, the community will start to bounce around and to rebalance its states. Even if there are small shocks, it will move. The ball will move around, go up one side, go down the other side, and so on. And even if the shocks get stronger and stronger, the community will react to these shocks and it will stay longer inside the basin because it can better rebalance or cope with the outer shocks. So this is the difference of resilience and stability. Okay, we can now define social resilience as the ability of communities to withstand external shocks to the social infrastructure so that these shocks do not change their social fabric, but that they can rather deal flexible with these changes in order to be not affected. What is also most important here is that resilient communities are not only be able to deal with change they know that is coming, but rather that they can also deal with uncertainties of the future and that they are able to deal with change they cannot anticipate yet. So resilience does not only mean to be resilient against those things we know that are coming, but rather to be also resilient to hazards and problems of the future that are not seen yet. So how to build resilient communities then? The central question of this video presentation. Okay, the first step would be to know about the risks. It means to analyze all the changes outside the community at stake very carefully. It means to build knowledge about the existing risks that are out there, but it also means to be aware that there might be new hazards in the future that might be coming and might affect the community at stake. To know the risks also means to develop knowledge about the existing vulnerabilities and problems of the specific communities, to map them and to analyze them. And it means to reduce those vulnerabilities as possible. The second step would be to know more about the community we're talking about here. It means to analyze all the changes that are ongoing in the community and to analyze them with respect to their influence of the vulnerability within the community. And it means to be aware about the very different needs of people, about the very different needs in everyday life, but also in difficult situations and disasters. And it means to be aware that some people will need more help in the difficult situations than others. A third part would be to make the community stronger, to strengthen it in order to enable a resilient dealing with problems. This means to invest in and to develop the social cohesion within the specific community. It means to make use of the already existing diversity within the community and to use it in order to develop and strengthen the social cohesion. And it means to limit the social inequalities within the communities and to organize the community itself in ways that these differences don't matter. To strengthen the community also means to combine all the different forms of knowledge and experience that are there in order to use them to make the resilient more effective. And it means to bring in all the relevant social capital within the community and to use it actively. A fourth step would be to self-organize collectively. This means, first of all, to develop a common vision of new desirable futures for the community, and then to take the necessary steps to transform in order to make these new futures that are desired to become real. In order to do this, it means to be heard outside the community and to influence all the political processes that influence the community itself. And it means within the community to let all the different groups that make up the community participate in this process in order to discuss and communicate all the different opinions that are there to enrich the community and to use its diversity as an asset. As I said, resilience is something that you cannot really plan, but where you can just develop generic approaches. And to have a wide range of abilities to react, it means to have as much as different opinions and ideas as possible to react. And the last important part in the self-organization of the community is to try to engage the whole community to become part of this process. Fifth is to keep going despite setbacks. As I mentioned and showed with the example of the forest fire, resilience is an ongoing process that will lead to some setbacks within the process. But these setbacks are needed in order to prove the resilience of a community. As there will be setbacks, it means to be flexible and adaptive, because you can't know whether the way you've taken will lead to success or whether there are changes that are needed. And it needs to acknowledge the uncertainty that is part of this process, and it needs to re-evaluation from time to time. And there all the errors one might have been taken need to be analyzed in an error-friendly way, where you acknowledge that you took certain ways, that you tried something, and then you measure whether this was successful or not. Okay, after these 5 steps, I come to a small conclusion. So, social resilience does not mean stability. It rather means a proactive change from time to time and with respect to the outer circumstances. Social resilience means to know about the risks, vulnerabilities, and problems of a given community. And it means to develop knowledge about the community and to develop the community further. And it means to actively cope with the problems and circumstances the community faces. This requires the self-organization of the whole community. And it requires to understand resilience as a process, not as an outcome. As a process, there will be setbacks. As a process, there will be failures. But rather, these failures are part of a resilience process. If we don't see these failures and if we don't experience them, we can't develop the resilience of a community. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the small video presentation. If you have any question, please email me. I wish you a good day. All the best from Berlin. Yours, Daniel. Bye.